If you read the whole interview, you're going to be amazed. It'll make your head spin with how stupid he is, how little knowledge.
Donald Trump's Deputy Director of Communications, Margot Martin, just posted a photo on her social media account showing the venue where Trump gave a speech yesterday in Phoenix at Dream City Church. Inadvertently, she revealed that even when Trump was speaking, the venue was not full. Despite the controlled environment at this church and the event promoted by Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA, there were plenty of empty seats. This isn't the first time Trump has exaggerated crowd sizes. Just recently, Jimmy Kimmel called him out for boasting about a record crowd at a New Hampshire rally.
Get that record crowd. Melania, get the folks at Guinness on the phone. I've never seen anything like this.
You will find a vast amount of empty seats even close to where Trump was speaking. This is not a one-time occurrence. It is becoming a trend in his events. Though the lofty claims of his campaign, drawing large numbers, the reality is somewhat different. Think back on the Wildwood, New Jersey event. Though in practice there was less than 10,000, they claimed 100,000 attendees. Likewise, the Bronx event, their stated figure was 25,000, but was more like 3,000. It's like claiming to have caught a 50-pound fish when in fact it was a goldfish. Even Jimmy Kimmel humiliated him for lying about crowd size in one of his recent rallies. Okay, now watch as Trump has a heckler ejected from the arena. See if you can spot any empty seats. Who is this? A Zir friend? You can get him out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Will you look at that record crowd? Melania, get the folks at Guinness on the phone. I've never seen anything like this. Though the real world tells a different tale, Trump loves to brag about his audiences. He claimed record attendance at a recent New Hampshire gathering, but videos showed many empty seats. It's a pattern we've seen time and again. The turnout simply isn't there, even at highly reported events. For instance, Trump supported a Republican candidate for Senate from New Jersey, who lost in the primary at the Wildwood function. So much for those massive crowds turning into a political success. Another blatantly obvious example was Trump's Dream City Church speech. Trump was leading curse word chants at the church, which defines itself as a community bound in God's mission. Imagine a convicted offender mobilizing a religious gathering to curse. The irony is almost too much to handle. They come up with something that's fake, just like everything else they do. It's all fake. The impeachments are fake. The court cases are a disgrace to our country. Everything is fake. So they come up with this order. I won't say it because I don't like using the word bullshit, but this thing allows millions of people. One person who attended the event, Jennifer Aaron Vallant, tweeted, "I grew up in Baptist church and school. Both entities were so uptight about language. I got in trouble more than once for saying crap. I'm confident this display wouldn't have happened then." Let's not kid ourselves. The church hasn't changed Trump. Trump has changed the church. It's a sad state when a church known for grace and community becomes a stage for Trump's vulgar rants. Dream City Church's mission is about loving people and nurturing communities. Yet Trump pokes fun at those who speak different languages. Trump's hypocrisy is unbounded, even with the backgrounds of his own wives, Ivana from Czechoslovakia and Melania from Slovenia. Instructors talk in English and they have somebody speaking in some cases languages that we've never even heard of. You know, there are a lot of languages that we don't have here. We have nobody that even speaks these languages. The hypocrisy is quite astounding. Trump's speech focused more on grumbling over his legal fights, alleging his trial in New York was rigged, than on community and hope. It is contradictory in regards to a convicted offender teaching about grace and community. Margot Martin's post showcasing the empty crowd isn't a one-off. Trump's Bronx and Wildwood events have aerial views that indicate far smaller numbers than reported. It seems that the attendance at high school football events exceeds those of these reportedly enormous rallies. Tweets have been quick to point out these discrepancies. Brian Tyler Cohen and others have posted pictures of empty seats at Trump events in Georgia and New Hampshire. Like Caroline Leavitt, Trump's representatives keep propagating lies about crowd numbers, claiming tens of thousands at roughly half-full rallies. It's like claiming you're throwing the party of the century and no one shows up. Social media has been swift to expose these lies. Tweets of empty seats at Trump rallies in New Hampshire, Georgia, and the Bronx have gone viral, debunking his exaggerated claims. These lies endure in spite of overwhelming data to the opposite direction. Even Fox News has periodically criticized Trump's crew for their inappropriate language and behavior. Trump speaks in half-empty rooms at churches, while President Biden quietly attends church services respecting the division between church and state. Unlike Trump, who couldn't name a single Bible verse when pressed, Biden does not show his faith for political advantage. Wrapping up on Trump's empty rallies, here's our own U.S. newscaster special of exposing Trump. Or, if you want a comedic breakdown, click the video on the top right of the screen of Stephen Colbert humiliating Trump. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy. When I'm wounded, I go after people hard, okay? And I try and unwound myself. Unwound. This family portrait of Trump as a traumatized victim lashing out because of his father's mistreatment is of course at odds with his entire reality TV and business and political campaign persona. And it comes as Donald Trump's campaign brand is in trouble. President Trump is now publicly afraid of the impeachment process after having claimed the opposite. He demonstrated his public fear today in his usual form for expressing his desperate fears. Twitter. He began by using gangster language in a tweet saying that the Mueller investigation, quote, didn't lay a glove on me. Didn't lay a glove on me is the language of a criminal who knows he is guilty, but cleverly escaped detection. It is not the language of a president. It is not the language of an innocent president. The president also tweeted the single most ignorant and desperate thing ever said by an American politician about impeachment. The president said, "If the partisan Dems ever try to impeach, I would first head to the U.S. Supreme Court." And of course, the Supreme Court wouldn't say to him, "What are you doing here?" because they wouldn't let him in the door. This is a tough business. You're a tough guy, Jeff, and we need to have a leader that is real tough. You're never going to be president. He's already said he wants to go after his enemies. He wants to go after journalists and the news media. Trump is. He's not just a bully. He's a stupid bully. You warned America about who Donald Trump was in 2016. You're a lifetime New Yorker. So is he. And you said the country does not realize who this fraudster is and not enough people listened. You will see things that, like, you'll see it's a convasion of the body snatchers. You'll see people you knew or you thought you knew all of a sudden changing, all of a sudden going with that side, either for self-preservation because they actually believe it or they're deluding themselves or whatever. But then when that happens and you walk into a restaurant, you see people used to know it all of a sudden. They're just not opposing it. They go with the flow. And that's even more scary. Insidious, I guess. You held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return. Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk? Yeah. What's the answer? Can I do your mind? I would like for you to answer the question. Okay. It's very simple to answer. That's why I asked it. It's very simple that you're a nasty person. He's sick. He is really genuinely a sick person that somehow has been allowed into our system. And I'm tired of calling him names. He just can't be anywhere near the office of the presidency. This certainly wasn't the first time Mrs. Trump has had to manage a very public personal drama involving her husband. Nearly 2 years before the Stormy Daniels story, there was the Access Hollywood tape. I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. And then I see Rick Perry the other day, and he's so, he's doing very poorly in the polls. He put glasses on so people will think he's smart, and it just doesn't work. People can see through the glasses. Donald Trump does not have the character, nor does he have the temperament to be the commander-in-chief. He's becoming a jackass at a time when we need to have a serious debate about the future of the party and the country. Donald Trump has always been a shameless liar, but he's taken it to a new level this week with his administration's defenses of his cruel family separation policy. Quote, "When President Trump canceled a visit to the American Cemetery near Paris in 2018, he blamed rain for the last-minute decision, saying that the helicopter couldn't fly and that the Secret Service wouldn't drive him there. Neither claim was true. Trump rejected the idea of the visit because he feared his hair would become disheveled in the rain, and because he did not believe it important to honor American war dead. According to 4 people of first-hand knowledge of the discussion that day, in a conversation with senior staff members on the morning of the scheduled visit, Trump said, quote, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers," end quote. In a separate conversation on the same trip, Trump referred to the more than 1,800 Marines who lost their lives at Below Wood as suckers for getting killed. Back in 2018, when the Stormy Daniels story picked up steam, former aide Stephanie Grisham remembers Donald Trump calling her from Air Force One to discuss Melania to basically see how angry she was and to see if we were putting any statements out. He definitely was worried, or she's the one person that I think Donald Trump really fears. Multiple media outlets tonight reporting the President Donald Trump made disparaging comments about America's fallen troops, including calling U.S. Marines killed in World War I, quote, "losers and suckers." The reports are spawning nationwide outrage. The president vigorously denies them. As of tonight, there is no tape of this incident, and the president is denying the entire story. You can call it a September surprise. The Atlantic magazine reporting tonight that back in 2018, President Trump called fallen U.S. soldiers losers and suckers for getting killed in action. The article citing 4 people with first-hand knowledge of the situation, and tonight both the AP and Washington Post confirming the story. I served an active duty in the military, and I find it absolutely disgraceful for anyone to think that Americans who gave their lives in service to our nation are somehow losers or suckers. It is completely unacceptable when these words come from the mouth of the commander-in-chief, and I call on Donald Trump to immediately apologize. If you don't want to be found guilty of falsifying business records as a felony, don't sleep with the porn star. Don't lie about it. Don't pay her off. Don't cover up the payoff. Don't cover off the payoff in the middle of a presidential campaign and where you're making an illegal contribution. And don't roast the guy up for taxes who you use as a front man. If you don't want to be held liable for rape like Donald Trump has, don't grab the woman's genitalia. If you don't want to be held liable for defending the woman that you raped, don't keep lying about what you did and calling her a nut job. If you don't want to be indicted for overthrowing the Constitution, don't start a self-coup. If you don't want to be indicted for classified stealing, classified documents, and obstructing justice, don't take the classified documents. When the government asks for it back, give them back. If the FBI serves you with a search warrant, don't hide the documents and don't lie about it, and don't have your lawyers lie about it. This isn't that hard. Donald Trump is not the victim here. Look at what the Judiciary Committee has said they're going to do. They want to take a lot of the witnesses who showed up in the Mueller report and have them come, kind of systematically in open hearings where the public can see just what it is the president was asking these people to do, just how he was behaving, how he was breaking the law in the White House. And to this question of whether the public supports impeachment or not, where they're ultimately going to be, where they are now is not necessarily where they're going to be after they've seen dramatic television hearings. And the president, I think, very much gets that, and that's why you see them resisting so much. Who I'm named after, my Uncle Anthony was on that beach 80 years ago. He was part of the Army Corps of Engineers. He assaulted Omaha Beach and then built the pontoons and platforms to get the heavy equipment onto the beach. He was wounded. He survived the wound, went on to fight in the Battle of the Bulge. He's a decorated hero. And we've got to get the Biden campaign to get out there and find people. My uncle's now deceased, obviously. He died fittingly, on Memorial Day 2005. But we got to get people like him and like those people in that ad to get out there and explain to people what the danger is. And Donald Trump is tipping you off with all of this disrespect for you and the cause of freedom. You've played a lot of bad guys. Would you ever play Donald Trump? Never. There's nothing about him. There's not one redeeming thing in him that I can see ever. And it's funny, I was just thinking that he actually became president. He could have done good things. Instead, he had to do it all wrong. He's so, as we all know, so narcissistic and self-centered. How dangerous it will be if he ever, God forbid, becomes president. I don't think they really understand. And historically, from what I see, even in Nazi Germany, they had it with Hitler. They don't take him seriously. He looks like a clown, acts like a clown. Mussolini, same thing. These guys, I don't know why they look like clowns. They somehow that element of society identifies in some ways with them. But it would be chaos beyond our imagination. There's no mystery about him. He's right out front. And what he says is what it'll be if he becomes president. The guy's a monster. It's beyond wrong. It's almost like he wants to do the most horrible things that he can think of in order to get a rise out of us. I don't know what it is, but he's been doing it. And it's scary. And when you have autocrats who don't have to answer to any parliament, they don't have to answer to anyone, and they don't care about their people. The tragedy of the strong man is that he despises his people. He thinks everybody's a dupe, and so he treats his military like cannon fodder. He just doesn't care what's happened to them, and the same it holds with Putin today. And so there's a profound lack of respect that these people show to their people. Back in 2015, then-candidate Donald Trump said this about then-Senator John McCain, who was a prisoner of war for 5 years in Vietnam. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured. The words of a president matter. No matter whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, they matter. Comfortably and brazenly lie. But he also insists that the people who believe and repeat his lies are the smart ones, as he did during his interview last week with state TV outlet Fox and Friends. I have the greatest supporters in the world. By the way, they're the smartest. We have the great brain power right in this country, I'm proud to say. And you're certainly a member of that group. No, seriously. You think Steve Doocy has brain power? The guy who lost his bleep when you complimented him on air? Fox and Friends in the morning? They're very honorable people. Wow. What do you think about that? Trump's only political skill is his total and complete lack of shame. His malignant narcissism allows him to confidently and brazenly lie in a way that most other politicians would be too embarrassed to even try. Like earlier this week when he claimed he had cut more regulations than any previous president in history, including fictional ones. We've set the all-time record in history of this country in cutting regulation. We've cut more regulations than any administration, whether it's 4 years, 8 years, or 16 years in one case. No, in no cases. I'm going to play those comments on race that were made by Donald Trump last night. Then I got indicted a second time and a third time and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. I mean, I wish that it was a deep fake. But the reality is that Donald Trump himself is a deep fake. He is a liar. He is a grifter. And he believes very little about black people and what they actually have to offer this country, right? That, oh, so long as you get arrested and you have sneakers, those are the things that black people are aligned with. I don't know how much more racist you can be than what Donald Trump has provided and continues to provide. But people like Tim Scott stand behind him grinning. So he thinks that somehow he is aligned with black people. You would never abuse power as retribution against anybody except for day one. He says, you're not going to be a dictator. I said, no, no, no. Other than day one, they know when he comes back, it's game over. Day one dictator. Hey, day one. Hey, how many people here now? Normally, I know you probably wouldn't in America, but considering what they've done to this man, how many people here support day one dictator? Since there's no jury present, Trump and his family are taking full advantage of it. Usually when there is or almost exclusively when there is a jury as the fact finder making decisions about the case, decorum must be maintained by the judge. Otherwise, it will influence the jury outbursts storming out of the courtroom. Berating people and the judge and the staff in front of a jury is not tolerated in the way that it's being currently tolerated. President Trump abruptly reversing course today, signing an executive order to end the separation of families on the border. We're signing an executive order. We're keeping families together, and this will solve that problem. Let's be clear about one thing. You don't get credit for solving a problem when you're the one who created the problem. You can't eat half a cheeseburger, put it down and say you're a vegan, especially when everyone knows you're just waiting for people to stop paying attention so you can finish your cheeseburger. Trump's narrative is that he's a self-made Superman who's smarter and better educated than everybody else. But a new book from his own niece suggests what everyone but his base has already figured out. He's a fraud. I have no problem calling Donald a narcissist. He meets all 9 criteria as outlined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. But the label gets us only so far. Donald Trump and his family have been fighting tooth and nail to make sure that this book does not see the light of day. His brother Robert requested a temporary restraining order to block publication. Perhaps one of the reasons the family has fought so hard to keep the book under wraps has to do with the fear that Mary Trump, as the best expert you can get on Donald Trump, his own relative, could tear down the false image that Trump has created and which, because so many working-class white voters believed it, helped make him president. It's definitely a psychological analysis of the president and his father and how he became the type of person that he is. But the sort of plot point that you keep coming back to in like every anecdote about him, both with the family and in dealing with the public and in business, it's just about how easily he lies and that he will do so for any effect. And in this part of her family's history, she's suggesting that he does it basically for pleasure, that it's one of the ways he enjoys himself, is to tell lies even in front of the people about whom those lies are being told and continuing to do it, even though at least one of the people present while he's telling the lie knows he's doing so. Donald Trump is just different from other people. Other people can lie and cheat, and perhaps they have reasons, which we all try to understand in our kind of work. But Donald Trump is a true psychopath. He's, in common language, he's evil. That's not name-calling. That's accurate. That's to emphasize that he is simply different from other human beings. So that's what I really took away from the book. I think she's right. I, the president, asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood. Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office on day one. No, it doesn't. Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. It's just second nature to this egomaniac to assume that large swaths of people are coming to see him, having to give him printed pictures of his rally as to keep him awake during his court hearing. Trump said New Jersey has the highest electricity costs in the country, not even close to true. He said California gas prices had just hit $7.21 a gallon. Gas Buddy tells me that just 1 out of 10,526 California stations was even above $7 the day he spoke. The state average was $5.26. And Trump said the BleachBit email deletion software used by Hillary Clinton's team years ago is, quote, so expensive, it is actually free of charge. That is oldie but goodie. Daniel. Wow. The Trump behavior as a defendant is the most absurd defendant behavior I've ever seen. First of all, there is the eye closing, which he now does about 10 minutes into the proceeding. And I think he's doing that to try to prove to us that he's actually not sleeping because it's only 9:40 a.m. But the eyes are closed for extended periods of time. The head starts to tilt. And then when he's not doing that, I actually saw him looking at photographs and I could see over his shoulder of what appeared to be crowds, possibly photographs of his rally this weekend. Stuff completely unrelated to this case. This is the same man who drew an extra outline as to not appear wrong in regards to discussing the path of a hurricane was going toward the Gulf. That was what was originally projected. And it took a right turn. I know that Alabama was in the original forecast. They thought it would get it as a piece of it. It was supposed to go. Actually, we have a better map than that, which is going to be presented where we had many lines going directly, many models, each line being a model. The original path that most people thought it was going to be taken, as you know, was right through Florida, where on the right would have been Georgia, Alabama, etc. When it comes to smoke and mirrors, Donald Trump truly is the champion of political theater. Bold, bombastic, and, yep, big. We're going to win so big. Thank you very much. And we're not just talking about his own winning predictions. Because what Trump seems to have cornered to is the market on fibs, falsehoods, and outright fabrications, as in pants on fire kind of lies. We have a rating system, and the pants on fire rating means the statement is inaccurate and also ridiculous. Sure, Trump is the most fact-checked of all the 2016 candidates, but the group says that's because he puts a whole lot more out there and a lot of it is simply made up. We have a president that said 3,000. Now he wants to bring in 250,000 people. In fact, the Obama administration only committed to letting in 10,000 refugees from Syria. I watched when the World Trade Center came tumbling down, and I watched in Jersey City, New Jersey, where thousands and thousands of people were cheering. And there were only a few people spotted cheering after the Twin Towers fell. He just seems to have a disregard for the facts. About 3/4 of the statements we have rated have either earned mostly false, or pants on fire. The primary audience are those angry white old guys. He tells them the truth that they want to believe in, whatever it is, that all Muslims are terrorists or what have you. And as a consequence, he makes them feel validated. Get a vote tomorrow. Trump also tried to downplay his crimes by weirdly reading printouts of things other people have said, like this quote from Fox News analyst Greg Jarrett. Greg Jarrett just says, "Where exactly is the crime?" To quote a memorable line from Shakespeare's Love, I don't know. It's a mystery. I swear to God, this trial is making me dumber. Instead of quoting the actual Shakespeare, he's quoting a guy quoting 1998 Shakespeare Love to quote the porn version of Romeo and Juliet. Before the trial ever started, some predicted that huge crowds of MAGA voters, supporters of Donald Trump, would descend on the courthouse and rally for Donald. Well, 5 weeks later, not so much. Crowds have been much smaller than police prepared for and made up of folks like amateur puppeteers, a DJ with a portable speaker, and the self-proclaimed most successful sex capsule salesman in Idaho, Utah, and Nevada. Really makes you feel for the second most successful sex capsule salesman in Idaho, Utah, and Nevada. Now, without the grassroots out there, Trump has been forced to call them the professional MAGA goons on his behalf. So far, 25 members of Congress have attended the trial, including Matt Gaetz, who was mostly there for the sex capsules. Trump sat for a chat with the gang at Fox and Friends, who provided 6 very warm and friendly shoulders for him to cry on. I have a wonderful wife who has to listen to this stuff all the time. They do that for this reason. They do that. All these salacious names that they put in, they put this stuff in to create havoc. These are bad people. I know everything they do and I know every move they make. I get it. It's tougher. I think it's probably, in many ways, it's tougher on my family than it is in me. She's fine, but I think it's very hard for her. I mean, she's fine, but it's, she has to read all this crap. Yeah. Pretty sure the only thing she reads is her prenup over and over again. Trump also weighed in on which classified files he would declassify were he to become president again. And forget the fact that he had 4 years to do this first time around. And forget the fact that he brought half the files back to his house. What I found interesting, he's very quick to answer the first 2 questions. But number 3, not quite as fast. If you were president, would you declassify? You can answer yes or no to this. Would you declassify the 9/11 files? Yeah. Would you declassify JFK files? Yeah, I did a lot of it. Would you declassify the Epstein files? Yeah. Trump posted a video touting how great a second Trump term would be, ending with MAGA, but in grayscale underneath it as a headline, industrial strength significantly increased driven by the creation of a unified Reich. Unified. Yike. That's not a dog whistle. That's a whistle made of dog. Evidently, MAGA now stands for Make America Germany around 1938. A spokesperson for Trump's campaign explained that this was not a campaign video. It was created by a random account online and reposted by a staffer who clearly did not see the word. This is Clay Higgins from an interview from this past week. Play the clip. But they're going down. These men and their high perch and their position of power and authority and a walking upon our entire history, our deepest core principles, they're not going to get away with it. They have so far. We'll see. Powerful people in this country, they want to make sure no one hears your voice. They want everyone to look at you like a far-right crazy conspiracy theorist. Is that who you are? No, ma'am. I'm a regular American man, the White House counsel said about concerns about crimes being committed. If they went ahead and marched on the Capitol with the president. I saw Mr. Cipollone right before I walked out onto West Exec that morning, and Mr. Cipollone said something to the effect of, "Please make sure we don't go up to the Capitol, Cassidy. Keep in touch with me. We're going to get charged with every crime imaginable if we make that movement happen." And do you remember which crimes Mr. Cipollone was concerned with? In the days leading up to the 6th, we had conversations about potentially obstructing justice or defrauding the electoral account. Donald Trump basically completely out of control, physically, mentally, emotionally throwing tantrums in the White House residence. White House reside like when he learned that his once loyal Attorney General had publicly fact-checked his loss and referred to the fact that there was no major voter fraud. There was ketchup dripping down the wall and there's a shattered porcelain plate on the floor. The valet had articulated that the president was extremely angry at the Attorney General's AP interview and had thrown his lunch against the wall. Not all of them, I mean, if I mention, no, I won't. But this interview with the Fox and Friends Weekend Beat team was heavily edited. There were a lot of abrupt, sloppy cuts, but they still managed to capture the essence of the former president and his very upbeat outlook when it comes to climate change. When they say that the seas will rise over the next 400 years, 1/8 of an inch, which means basically have a little more beachfront property. Okay, yeah, no, that's totally wrong. It means you have less beachfront. Think about when you're in the tub with your gelatinous belly bobbing up out of the water, and then the water starts getting cold and you scream at your butler, add some more hot, and then he brings more hot water in. Does your belly island get bigger, or does it get smaller? Smaller, as he answers. Entas.